The Mobiscribe Wave Color. Thank you to Mobiscribe for sending us this sample. Literally one of a kind. This unit is such an odd combination of features if you look at the entire eNote industry. WACOM pen, Kaleido Plus, last generation, sunken screen and bezel, with a glow light, onboard audio, waterproof, and Google Play, making it the 8th manufacturer in our industry who has Google Play on board. What an absolute package! But is it any good? Well, there's only one way to find out. First thing we need to look at, of course, is the pen. This is a very basic pen. In fact, it has no secondary or tertiary button on the side for highlighting or erasing purposes. There is an eraser on the back. It is an hexagonal kind of pen, so it doesn't really roll around too much. It doesn't stick to the device anywhere, and it very much uses the same tips as everyone in the industry, which isn't a bad thing, but they didn't do anything special for the pen or the digital stationery of any kind with this unit. However, what they did do a good job with is the design. This looks like nothing else in the industry. It is a sunken screen and bezel, which is just in and of itself amazing. It's a 7.8 with a nice stone kind of wet clay gray around the side. Absolutely love it. The back is this deep ocean blue. It's beveled on the side, signifying the name Wave. Says it right there as well at the bottom. It has a USB-C on the bottom. It's nicely beveled around all the sides. It has a speaker much like an earpiece of a phone, although you can't really use it as a phone because there's no microphone. And you have a power button and a glow light button. There are very few manufacturers that actually do a glow light button. In terms of the design, spot on. The user interface is adequate. It's not terrible. You get notes, books, calendar, and tools right there, and then these things change dynamically based on what you do. New notes, new things you've sideloaded in, etc. They don't have a top drop down in the traditional motion. You have to click one of the things at the top, then you get Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, screenshot. You get a whole bunch of things that command the audio, the alarm, notifications, glow light, contrast, and threshold, which is basically just your sensitivities to the colors. Now, much like the case is with pretty much every color device in the industry, it looks very gray. This is not Mobiscribe's fault. It's the same on Bigme, it's the same on Onyx, it's the same on Pocketbook. What you have to do, controversial or not, is turn the glow light on a little bit. That kind of balances everything and gives it more of a vibrant look. It's not bright. We're not shining any light outwards at us just yet, but it is critical to the overall appearance of this. Otherwise, you're just not going to be able to see it. You have to have the glow light on to some degree, or it's just not going to work. If we click on this, this is the home, that's the back, this is the refresh, and this is the multiple apps screen. Now, there is a downside with this, is that there's no speed mode. And the only speed mode you get is extremely slow. This is one of the slowest units we've used that has any sort of note-taking. It is absolutely sluggish to the nth degree. It is unresponsive, it's very stainy, and it's a very drab experience when it comes to moving things around. You do get Google Play, however, which is a huge point. This is a huge selling point. This is one of the few saving graces of this unit, is that Google Play exists. This is one of 8 manufacturers that has Google Play now. You can download anything you want on here except video things. You can download Netflix, but you can't watch videos. This is incapable of watching videos, and in fact, we won't show videos in this review because it just can't do it. Although what you can do is everything else. You can do books, you can do audiobooks, you can do manga, you can do anything under the sun. You get complete control. Although you see how slow things go between everything, it's a very, it tests your patience. You see, you swipe up and it takes seconds. That's 2 seconds before it even kicked in. I mean, there's no other way to say it other than to show it, and it's just a very slow experience. It can't be overstated because it's one of the things that is a massive deterrent of this unit. The reading experience is pretty much the only place where this thing performs to any sort of realistic level. Although there's things that it's inherently missing, like the ability to take notes. You actually can't take notes on it. You can copy, you can highlight, you can delete, or you can go down here, in which case it allows you to extend the highlight, or if you click on this, you can underline or strike out. You actually can't take notes on it because they allow you to take notes on it out of the gates like that. And we'll show the latency and everything when we get into the final look. You do have things at the bottom, format, rotate, other. You can carry over a lot of the same palette from the note-taking experience. It's quite nice in that regard. The eraser kind of works, although it doesn't really work on the highlights, even though that's something that a lot of manufacturers do allow you to do. And you get a quick nav at the bottom that you can go in left and right, and it tells you the page numbers and everything. So from an e-reading perspective, it's not really that bad. In fact, this is one of the only things it does well, which is strange because this isn't an e-reader. This is a Google Play enabled eNote. So I'm not sure why the only thing it does well is e-reading when typically color devices don't look good in e-reading. You can explore the file browser. You can go back to basically anything you want. We'll go down to documents. That's where we have our PDF file. Before we get into some manga, we'll show PDFs really quick. Again, when you click on something, just wait because you don't know if it did anything yet. The contrast overall is very dark. You can change all this by dropping the top down and changing the saturation and everything like that. We just want to show you it can do it. Typically 7.8 inches are not recommended for PDFs because, as you can see, it's the same height as my cell phone. It's not really something that you should prioritize if it has to do with your job, your education, etc., because you simply can't read everything. And when you do, you're gonna always be faced with the fact you have to pinch and zoom with no minimap, and it's very slow, and you don't know if it processed, and it just jumped to the top of the page for some reason, even though I didn't tell it to do that. So it's not a very accurate experience either way, and to navigate around is even more painful, to the point where it's better to not even use PDFs and just stick to note-taking. We are going to show manga, however, because it does take advantage of the color, at least for the cover art, before we get into the note-taking experience. Now, I would say that another saving merit of this is the color content, but remember, it's Kaleido 2, which is a couple years old at this point collectively, not Kaleido 3, which is the later release of everything. So this is a manga sample, and manga is traditionally black and white, so you won't see any color moving forward. The black and white resolution is fine, although they actually don't say it on the box, they only say the color resolution. The color content is decent, but it's a gen old, and a little bit of a problem with this is that you actually can't choose a speed mode to speed this up or remove the animations. So you'll have to find a very lightweight manga application in order to use this properly, because this is a terrible experience. I can't be cut out of my immersion to be forced with these page turns that don't even work half the time. You can see the page fell back one time because it didn't actually complete the stroke. It's a very poor experience when it comes to consuming manga. There's nothing you can do about it either. There's no way to speed it up or lighten the load on the processing. The audio experience is absolutely dreadful. It is a very, very tiny speaker, and it kind of tries to play more depth than it's able to, so a lot of the beats and the bass lines get overlapped by each other, and they get prioritized to a point where every other beat is extremely drowned out and almost deafened to the point where you can't even hear it. The last thing we want to look at is notes. This should be the absolute saving grace of this unit. Now, there's a lot of benefits to the note-taking experience on this because it does have multiple colors and multiple shapes. These aren't all the colors either. You actually get a ton of colors. You get a whole bunch, different shades of blue, different shades of green, and they look great. They look perfectly fine. You also get shapes, and when you make the shapes, you can choose the color. For example, if I do a line, and I make a line on the screen, before they stamp it, they actually let you choose between 18 colors, which I really appreciate, honestly, and you can choose the line thickness as well, and it banks it on the screen. And you know what? Not a lot of manufacturers do that after the fact. Before you place the thing, you have to choose the color. This one's the opposite. I kind of like that. You can convert notes as well, though it's not very clear how. You have to go here, and then you have to go OCR. Once you do, it's pretty quick. In fact, that's the quickest thing this unit does, is the text conversion. It's very fast. You can keep typing after the fact, although the keyboard is absolutely awful and makes this really terrible noise and misses half the characters. So I wouldn't recommend typing on it, but note taking is fine. But what we have to do is take a page of notes to kind of let you guys know our findings. Not terrible. A little bit squeaky, has a decent amount of grit. This is a very lightweight pen, which means you feel a lot of the reverberation through it. Gives you a little bit of a realistic writing feel. It does also help that it's a sunken screen. You're writing on more of a raw experience. No, it's not the exposed EPD. You never write on an actual e-paper display. There's tons of layers in front of it either way, but it is decent. I felt better, but it's not the worst, honestly. It's not a glassy experience by any stretch of the imagination. You get everything else like lasso tools, and you get a drop down with a fair amount of features actually. Convert, backup, rename, save, restore, back. I mean, you get a pretty good list of things. You also get layers. Layers is used to be kind of groundbreaking, but for the most part everyone and their mom has layers now. So layers is that if you choose a layer higher than that of the one you're working on, for example, I'll go over here and color on there. If I delete that, I'm only going to be affecting the top layer, layer number 2. Layer number 1, which is the background, will not be affected by anything I do, so it kind of gives you that separation. All in all, the note-taking experience is honestly the only thing that this unit basically does to any realistic measure. Sunken screen design, Google Play on board, and a waterproof rating certainly does set this aside from other units in its class. However, it's extremely laggy, it has an unimpressive basic pen, and it's already a generation old of color technology. This is hands down one of the worst e-notes we've ever used. It doesn't even have the latest gen of color, it has no speed mode, no expandable storage, the pen doesn't stick to the side, the pen itself is not that great, and it can't even do simple tasks like flipping a page or even taking less than 2 seconds to recognize a command. The thing just simply doesn't work. On paper, this thing is a beast, boasting a combination of selling points that no other manufacturer has, but that doesn't mean anything if you can't even simply use the e-note. Thanks for watching.